So what is the trifecta? We want to talk to them about their interests, things that they enjoy on a regular basis, things that they would do if money was no concern, if time was no concern. And they may need help with that. So for example, you may something like, I noticed that you enjoy reading. I noticed that you like building things. I noticed that you are very talkative, or you like interacting with your friends a lot. And so when you have these conversations with them, you're helping them to identify, oh, you seem to be interested in these things. Maybe this is why you were born. Maybe this is your purpose. And then the authentic self, that's the qualities that they have that show up no matter what, especially when no one is looking. Who they are at the core. You want them to be able to see their natural talents and see their natural gifts and have conversations about that so that they can come up with who they really are, how they really show up in the world, whether they're introverted, extroverted, quiet, noisy, gifted, talented, musical, athletic, intelligent, whatever the case might be. And then the last area, some of you may be saying a heartbreak, well, what is that about? Yes, that's very important to see what your purpose is. It's the problems that you observe around the world that you want to see solved. It's the things that bring you pain. So part of the reason Dr. McDuffie has chosen to do this webinar today was because of the pain, the heartbreak of seeing brothers like himself be pulled over by cops for no reason. Like we had a conversation yesterday, he was talking about this, it was like a decade of his life where he was pulled over quite a bit. Why? Because of the color of his skin. That caused him enough pain that he's saying, you know what, I'm going to actively work at making sure others or other young brothers and sisters don't go through this. So that's the heartbreak. When children can see, like if you notice that your child is very compassionate with friends, or if they want to help people out, because, or like, sometimes a child might see someone that is homeless and they may really have deep compassion. Maybe that'll help them understand, you know what, I'm meant to help people out. I'm meant to provide some service. I'm meant to be a support. So these, again, are the things that you can talk to your children about. Now, how do we as parents cultivate our children's purpose? Think about that for a moment. How do we do that? Do we even know that we should? Because honestly, growing up, and I grew up in a different era, growing up, I don't remember these kind of conversations. And when I got my teaching training in school, I don't remember conversations about helping children understand their purpose in life. But I'm here to say that if your children understand what their purpose is, again, they'll be more intentional about how they react or prevent even the racism that they face in this world and the other social injustices that they may face. So one way to do that is through positive reinforcement. Now, this is a saying, connection comes before correction. And I'm going to get into positive reinforcement in a second. But I want to emphasize the need for parents to connect with your children. How many times do we look at ourselves even or observe other parents where you see everybody in the same room, but they're all on their devices? Everybody's in their own world. And it's not until Johnny does something wrong, it's like, why did you do that? A lot of times children only get attention when you catch them doing something that you deem wrong. And the answer or the solution to some of the problems that we face in the home as well as outside of the home, especially when it comes to racism, is that we need to connect with our children. How do we do that? You see this image here of this family like being very close knit. They're touching each other. They're happy together. So like, if you're one of those parents that's constantly corrected, and you have to ask yourself, when do I spend time with my child? How often do we do it? What is the quality of that time together? So the way that you can connect is to kind of think about these things. And this comes from Dr. Shefali. She's very well known, been on Oprah and things like that. And she's written a book called The Conscious Parent. So this came from that book. But she says that every child wants to know three things. One is, am I seen? Do you see me, Mom? Do you see me, Dad? Do you see me when I'm doing right? Do you see me when I do the dishes when you don't ask? Do you see me reading my book? Do you see me studying? Do you see me when I'm with my friends? Do you see me? Do you even notice me in the business of your life? And parents, I understand we have to work. Some of us are in school. Some of us are working. Some of us are caregivers for our parents. We're very, very busy. So this is not a judgment. At the same time, we have to find a way to coexist with working and other responsibilities, as well as making sure that our children know that they are priorities. The second one is, am I worthy? Am I worthy of your time? Am I worthy of your energy? Am I worthy of your resources? Am I worthy of a conversation? Can you listen to me talk about how I was playing outside with my friends, even though inside as parents we might be like, I don't really want to hear this story. But for our children, they want to know that they're worth the time. So we have to just kind of listen and really be engaged. And then the last one is, do I even matter? Do I matter? And they all are aligned. But that's how you connect with your children, that you see them, you let them know on a regular basis you are worthy, and you also let them know that they matter. So you're balancing correction with connection with correction. And again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how you can institute correction in a very loving way a little bit later. So I love this quote. I see this image, and this little girl's like, proud to be me. Like, you want your children to feel a sense of pride. And I'm not talking about pride like an arrogance, but like a sense of like self-dignity and self-respect. Because when they have a sense of self-respect, when they are mistreated, they will respond in a way that upholds their dignity and upholds their self-respect, and also upholds the respect of their community, upholds the respect of their ancestors, upholds the respect of their elders. So you want them to feel this sense of pride. And I like this quote. It says, when a person feels seen, feels worthy, and feels they matter, they grow up with an empowered life. Now, granted, your children will face racism. They may even face police brutality. They may even face, I'm thinking about when they go out in the workforce, when, there's not equal opportunities, they're going to face all types of discrimination. The thing is, if they feel empowered within themselves because they know who they are and they believe in themselves, they again will be able to respond in a way that aligns with their own value system that you help them come up with. So you're not only teaching them, you're helping them come up with their own. And there's a way to do that. By the way, let me just say this, because I think I meant to say it before. There's this thing when it comes to discipline. As parents, we can be fast and furious. Why'd you do that? Didn't I tell you not to? Or we can be slow and curious. What made you do that? I noticed that you didn't wash the dishes at 6 p.m. when I asked you to. What was going on in your mind? Was there something else distracting you? Like having those conversations where you're asking genuine questions, because it really gives you insight into your children. And it helps you to strengthen their own self-empowerment because they have a mind. I was watching a video yesterday and the person was like, first of all, respect me and like shut up and listen, or something to that effect. Like this older woman was telling a younger woman to do that. And it's like, no, children have a voice. Let them talk. In fact, why don't you be more inquisitive so that you can understand them more? Because if they know that you're listening, that you see them, that you consider them worthy, then they're going to feel more empowered, and they'll be able to be assertive when necessary. Notice I said assertive and not aggressive, but aggression, it has its place too, and I may even talk about that in a moment. So let's get to this positive reinforcement. How do you reinforce that self-love, that self-identity, that self-empowerment? Well, let me just talk about what positive reinforcement is, first of all. It refers to giving a child something that reinforces positive behavior. So let me just say this. People get this confused, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in a minute, but positive reinforcement does not mean something pleasant or something nice or good. Positive reinforcement means that you add something. So that's important. You have to add something to increase behaviors that you expect. So in other words, if you notice your child doing something that's really beautiful or acceptable or compliant, you can give them verbal praise or encouragement. Or you might give them a tangible reward, such as money or a toy or a gift or something. So you're adding, you're giving them something to increase the positive behaviors. So if they do their chores, they get an allowance at the end of the week, because that will motivate them to continue to do their chores. It could be physical affection or a gesture like a hug or a high five or a thumbs up. And also, and I think this one is so valuable, this goes into that connection, active listening and quality time. I don't know that we give our children enough of that, where we really pay attention to what they say. So we're not just like, yeah, oh, okay, I get that. No, but we're really listening. And they know that we're listening because we ask questions. So these are forms of positive reinforcement. Then we have negative reinforcement. Just like positive reinforcement means that you add, negative reinforcement does not mean something negative or mean or nasty. It means that you take away something. And guess what the goal still is? Any form of reinforcement is to increase the behaviors. And you might say, huh? How do you take something away to increase the behaviors? That's why I provided an example, because sometimes that gets a little tricky to understand. So the example here is before behavior. So you have the complaining parents, clean your room. I'm so sick of this messy room. Do what you're supposed to do. Behavior, child cleans room. Because the room is clean, the parent takes away the complaining, removes the complaining, right? And so what happens? The child keeps cleaning. The child keeps the room clean because you took away the complaining. So the key is positive and negative do not mean good or bad. Instead, it means add or take away something to increase. It's always about increasing behavior. So how do you parent African American children amid racism in unprecedented times? So it's a book that was written called Sticking to, Watching Over, and Getting With. It's an African American Parent's Guide to Discipline. I highly recommend it. The author is from University of Pennsylvania. And the first one is, he provides these 3 ingredients for effective discipline in the Black community. So the first one is sticking to. That is that unconditional love and support. That's when you give your children affection, hugs, time, energy. Like, they know that you value them. They know that you see them. They know that they're important. The next one is watching over. So you give them some loving supervision and protection. By the way, loving does not mean, all the time. It's not always fluffy. Sometimes love is tough. So for example, if you see your child running out into the street when there's oncoming traffic, you might yank them and say, get yourself out of that street. That's love, because you want to protect them. So when I say love and supervision, and I think when the author was saying love and supervision, it's not meant that it's always nice. It's like, what is the most loving thing to do for my child in this moment?